Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today we're going to Masechtas Menachot daf Nun Beis. We're going to begin on Nun Beis Amud Aleph by the 2 dots, 5 lines from the top. Tanubah. The Par Helm Davar Shel Tzibor, in which the din is that this is referring to where there was a mistake, an erroneous psaka based in, and the majority of the people, as we saw in the previous stuff, even if it's the majority of the shvatim, it was not roiv. Nonetheless, they have a chiyuv to have to bring a special carbon, which is karpar helm davar shel tzibor, as well as the sirabot kachavim when it comes to having to bring a sa'ir for being oived vodazara. But chila megavan lehen. So on the onset, we collect for them. Debi Rabbi Yehuda. Now, what exactly is this referring to? So Rashi says as follows. L'rabos par elam. Okay, we'll get that in a second. Rav Shimon Omer mitrumas halishka. So actually, the monies are taken from the trumas halishka hein boyin. So that is the question is who pays for these things? So either these items are collected from the people, or it's collected from the trumas halishka. So v'sani evcha. Haiminahu achrita amurk rabbanim kamed Ravashi lema kamaisa achraiso. Let's say it's the first one. Look at Rashi. Ezu nemar b'achreina. Which one was said last? Shenismach aleha, that we rely on it. The shema haderbe meidach, that maybe he retracted from the other one. Rabbi Yehuda, Rav Shimon, Rabbi Yehuda. So Rashi's kamaisa. The Tani Rav Shimon sheboin min halishka. That according to the shita of Rav Shimon, he says the monies come from the lishka. The Shemon Rav Shimon the chayish l'pshia. We know that Rav Shimon is chayish l'pshia, that a person will maybe not do it themselves, as we were concerned, as we saw in yesterday's daf, that if the Kohen Gadol dies, so if we have to collect the money from the Yorshim for the Minchas Chavitin, they may refuse. So maybe that's also here that we're chayish l'pshia, that we therefore have to collect from the lishkas. We have to collect from the Trumas Halishka. So Amruhu Rav Hashi Afil Tema Basraisach Achraisa. Actually, you can even say it's the last one. Kika Chayish Rav Shimon L'Pshia. When is Rav Shimon concerned? B'milsa Delis B'hu Kapara B'Gaveh. Because there's something which there's no kapara. For example, the mincha of the Kohen Gadol who died, the Yarshim don't achieve kapara in that situation. However, b'milsa the Isl who kapara b'gavo loichayish Rav Shimon l'pshia. So he's not afraid, and you don't have to therefore collect from the Trumas Halishka, as Rashi says, the Par Helm Davar Shel Tzibor is a kapara for the Tzibor, for the mistake that was made. So maybe in that situation we shouldn't be chayish for Pshia, and if we don't have to collect from the Trumas Halishka. So my havi was, so what's the maskana regarding all of this? So Amrle Rabbi Zuti Ravashi Tashma, the pasuk says the Sanyan b'midbar es karbani lachmi lishai. Sound familiar? Of course, that's the Rosh Chodesh laning. So what do we learn out from here regarding this pasuk, which is extra? As Rashi says, Riba hakasuv karbanos harbe the chol hani loshin karbanin who. So Lorabos Parham Davar Shel Tzibor. It's coming to include even this V'siri Avodas Kachavim Sheboy Mitrumas Halishka Divrei Rav Shimon. So he holds that even when it comes to something which is kapara related, nonetheless it comes from the Trumas Halishka. Says Rashi Sholha Yodim Shiachata V'Ilacha Marbel Hukra. Okay, so that is the answer. And then the Mishnah says, "V'shlema ha'isa kariva," that if the Kohen Gadol dies, then we have a new Kohen Gadol who's appointed. So fine, he does. Now, in that situation, if the half of it was brought because it was brought in the morning, but not in the afternoon because he died, so the other Kohen Gadol has to do it. If the Kohen Gadol there was no new Kohen Gadol, so that's the machlokas. Do we say that the monies come from the Yorshim or Chayish L'Pshia, as we said? And Rav Shimon says Mishel Tzibor. Now, either way, the Mishnah said that it has to be complete. It's not, they said, well, you say, what's the point of bringing a whole mana? After all, the morning one was already done, and that was half, so you don't have to bring another half. No, you always have to bring a whole. Okay, now, V'shlema Hoisa Kriva. So, Rav Chia Barabba, Boy Rabbi Yochanan, Shlema Shacharis V'shlema Ben Harbayim. When it says it's supposed to be complete, does that mean that it's supposed to be a full amount in the morning and full amount in the afternoon? Or Dilma Shlema Shacharis, just as long as it's the full one in the morning, Ubatila Ben Harbayim, if you don't bring anything in the afternoon at all. So that is the question. Okay, so Omer Rava Tashma Shmini. Let's say you have 8 Kohanim, says Rashi. Shmini b'chavitin. What does that mean? So Masechtas Talmud says, money Kohanim Yud Gimel ha'oiskim b'tamid. There was 13 that were oisik in the carbon tamid. Ben b'boiker, ben b'erev, zeh b'kach v'zeh b'kach. Everyone had different responsibilities. So 8 of them were involved in the chavitin. V'im isa de batila. If it's true that the afternoon one wasn't brought at all, ben arboyim hazimna de lo mishkacha shlei shmini b'chavitin. Sometimes you're not going to need 8. Hechidami, the Meis Kohen Gadol. Let's say the Kohen Gadol died, like in the case of our Mishnah. V'omina achar tachta, but we didn't appoint anyone afterwards. Amruhu Rabbanan made Rabbi Yirmiyah Omer Bavloi Tipshoi Mishum Diasmi Ba'atrich Dechashucha. Just because you're sitting in dark places, Amishmaisa the Chashchan. No, that's not a logical place. And Rashi says because Bavel was an Amukah, it's a dark place, so that's not logical. The Tani Shvi B'Sailes Chi B'Yayin. So what exactly are these numbers? So 7 says Rashi Makriv HaSailes the Minchas Nichse Tamid, and then 9 is with Yayin. So Hachanami Lu Batli says Rashi L'Oilam V'Kaimulan Minchasav Niskehem B'Laila. The im lo hikrivu hayoim. If you weren't makrin during the day, the sachim yakrivu mamachar. So in the sachim we brought the next day. You go in shul kadsh b'kli. If let's say you're not mekadosh in the kli, the lo nisl belina alma zimna de karv tamid b'l nesachim. It's possible that the tamid could still be brought on that day, even though the sachim were not brought. Min chasam in niskehem. So when it says min chasam and in their libations, b'layla. Min chasam niskeim afilo machar. And this is a drasha we saw maybe 5-10 blot ago, is that sometimes the carbon can, the libations, the nesachim could come im hazevach, or could come zeb, if not with the zevach. Anyway, ella vadai, ella de'i lo katani, hachanam de'i lo katani. Says Rashi, Lo havi, we don't mention what happens if it doesn't happen. The loy hav nesachim lo katani hachanami gami chavitin. So too in the case of the chavitin, the meis kohen gadol lo katani. We don't talk about these ifs. We don't contemplate them if the kohen gadol dies. Well, oilam, but maybe you could still say meis that if he died, then batela, then it will be batal in the afternoon. Kol bein harbayim ad sheyamad kohen acher, until another kohen gadol takes over. So the fact that it doesn't mention this case doesn't mean anything, because of course we just don't want to mention all these little stipulations, all these different possibilities. So Hadruka made the Rava Oimer. So they went back and they said in front of Rava, Omar mi bishusin amri kamahu. This is actually out of like embarrassment. In other words, it was not a good statement that was said. Says Rashi, Kishanu Aimrim Shum Tam De'enu Yafe. When we say something which isn't so good, Aimrim Moiso Hashemin Lifnei B'nei Eretz Yisrael. Metivasan Mituvet Loy Amri Kamaihu. Ki Amri Mili Malyoso. When we say something good, Lo Amri Lahu Kamaihu, don't say in front of them. V'hadar Amarava Haninami Tivusinhi. This is actually a good statement. Why? Because Amakra Soyas Mincha Tamid. So it says the idea that it's not going to be batal, that you still would have to bring it in the afternoon, is actually logical based on the following reading of the pasuk. It says, "Solos mincha b'lula, solos mincha tamid, shar hari lecha keminchas tamidin." It has the same status as the minchas tamidin. The fact that we're comparing it to a tamid, it's just like the tamid. What's the tamid? It's something which is never batal. So too, when it comes to this, it's not going to be batal as well in the afternoon. So my havilah. So what's the maskana? Do we hold like Rava? Do we hold like Rabbi Yirmiyah? So Rav Nachman Yitzchak Tashma the Sanya Shlema Shachar, so Shlema Ben Harbayim. It has to be the complete amount in the morning as well as in the afternoon. Rav Yochanan Pligiba Abba Yosi Ben Dustoy Barabanan Abba Yosi Ben Dustoy Omer Mafresh Shnei Kamatzim. You separate 2 Kamatzim Shilavina, Kametz Shachris, V'Kaimetz Ben Harbayim. So you do 1 Kaimetz in the morning and 1 Kaimetz in the afternoon. It says Rashi Gashai, maybe Isaron Shalim, Mibeso, that when the Kohen Gadol takes an Isaron from his house, maybe Imoi Shnei Kamatzim Lavoina, he should also take 2 kamitzas worth of frankincense. Umakriv Echad Lachatzi Isaron Shel Shachar, so he'll take half of it for the morning and after the other half for the afternoon. Rabbanan Amri Mafresh a Kaimetz Echad, he will mafresh 1 kaimetz, chatzi kaimetz shachris, v'chatzi kaimetz ben harabayim. So it's the machlokas whether or not we do shnei kamatzim or 1. So on this, but Mike Mifli, what's the basis of this machlokas? So Abi Yosi ben Dustoi Savar, well Ashkachan chatzi kaimetz dekarav. We don't find that we take a kaimetz to do half and half. So therefore, it must be you have to do 2. Rabbanan Sabri lo Ashkachan isarin deboy shnei kamatzim. We never find that you need to do 2 kamitzas. So that's the machlokas. Question 3. Let's start off with question 2. Actually, question 2 we did already. Question 3. Kama kamatzim shelavayna haya krivim im minchas chavitin de kohen gadol. So that's a machlokas, right? We said it's either 2. Rabbanan says kametz echad chatzi b'shach chatzi ben arbayim. Rabbi Dustoi says 2 kamatzim, 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon. And then it says over here, which we didn't finish, but it says, what happens, ha'im kishemes, if the Kohen Gadol dies, v'lumino achar tachtav, the shlema haisabah, we have to bring a full one of flour, huchbul v'naso kishem shehuchbul salasai, olo. Do we also have to have double the amount of the levina in that case or not? We're going to end up seeing, I'll just say it right now. So we do not double. This we're going to see in a second. So Rabbi Yochanan, kohen gadol shemeis lo mino achar tachtav, and you don't have another kohen yet. As we continue, Amid Beis l'Rabbanan huchful of anaso lo. So mi amrina and mi tayich shehuchful salasai. Since you've doubled the amount of silas, because you have to bring a full amount in the morning and then again in the afternoon. So do we say also huchpul vanasai? So therefore, do we do that? Or dilma madi goli goli madi lo goli lo goli? Maybe only that, but not that. V'shemen bein l'alba yosi ben ustoyu bein l'rabanan mahu. How about when it comes to the oil? Says Rashi, miboy libra kuhu. In circle havi gimel lugin. Do you have to bring 3 lug l'chol yisarin? The adalo yomos hayi maybe gimel lugin. You would bring 3. The v'chatzin lug umechsel l'chatzi yisarin the shachar v'lug umechsel l'ben harbayim. So he would take 3 and he would split them in the morning and a half. So just like everything's split, the minchas chavitin was split, but we still have to bring the whole thing for the afternoon. So is it the same thing when it comes to levina? That you'd have to bring 2, you have to bring double, and when it comes to the shemen, you have to bring the double, which is 3, or would 1.5 be enough? So Tashimam. So that's the question. Shemen bin labadus ben murabanan mahu. So Amarava Tashma. Hey kamatzin hey, and there was 5 different types of kamitza. V'im isa zimdim shachas zayin. If this would be the case, it would be more. Says Rashi. So this is later on in our Masechta. It says like this. it mentions different types of kimitza. It doesn't mention regarding the kimitza of the chaviti kohen gadol over there. Hasa mishum the lachatzoyin karov, because it's only in halves. They split in half in the morning, half in the afternoon. Uvishleima kamayri v'lo b'chatzoyin. And over there, it only talks about full things and not halves. Now, v'im isa dechi meis kohen gadol karv shalem b'chol hakatayris zimna mishkachas l'shiva. So why doesn't it mention these cases, right? That you have to bring a full amount, right? So why doesn't it mention that? Must be it's not doubled. So di'i lokatani, as we said, no. As Rashi says, oyam imalach the huchbul really is doubled. V'haydaloi chashaleis mishum di'i meis kohen gadol katani. As we said before, we don't want to mention those cases. Yosef Rampava Karmel Hashmaisa Amrul Rabbi Yosef Bar Shamtu Rapapa V'ham Mala Kaimitz V'chutz. He says, understand, you're bringing kmitza outside. What does that mean? It says, Di'i Alvar V'ha'alei B'chutz. Let's say you violated and you brought it outside, so you're chayiv. V'katani law says Rashi, Nami Shema Mina Di'im Isa Dehuchpulu, Listnahu V'filu Di'i, right? So it mentions these types of scenarios. Di'i Havi V'katani, right? So we do see these types of cases. Well, if this happens, if that happens, so why is it not mentioned? It should be mentioned. Okay. So again, so my Havala, and this is going to be the Maskana. So this is the reality of what's supposed to be done. As we said, you have to bring the full amount, the full money in the afternoon. Umafresh law beis kamatzim. So you have to bring two. Kaimet shachas or kaimet ben arboim. Right, which is not like the Rabbanan. Umafresh la shloishus lugin, and you have to have three lugin, lugam exa shachris, lugam exa ben arbaim. So money, who is this like? Ilim Rabbanan, mashna lavay nasa dehuchbula, mashna shema dehuchbula. So why does he make a distinction between the oil and the lavayna? El abi yosem edustoihi, yer mechavida kohen gadol ba'alma shnei kamatzim. Boy, because he says you have to bring two. And the oil and the lavaina is not going to be doubled, and that's the case. Okay, so that's the basic answer right there. That the din is that only thing that is doubled is the mana, but not the shemen and not the lavaina. So it says here, okay. And let's look at question TB4. Kamishir Hashem and lavaina b'minchas chavitin ubein harbayim l'chol echad. Okay, so this is what I wrote. How much is the shear, the Shem and the Lavaina, Mincha, V'chavitim, B'baykim, Bein Arbaim? No, it doesn't talk about when he dies. It's talking about in general. So Hashem in Shalosh, Shehu, 1.5 in the morning, 1.5 in the Bein Arbaim. Lavaina, wrote the Machlokas, if it's 2, V'echad, B'baykim, V'echad, B'bayker, Arak, Echad, 1.5 in the morning. Okay, so that sounds pretty clean. Okay, that's not the question that I was expecting it to be, but that's what it is. And TA, 1. Kama shir Hashem lavaina b'minchas chavitin b'barkim ben arbaim. So when it comes to the oil, it's one in the for the morning or the afternoon. So the lug shemen, the shemen is a lug and a half. Lavaina is a machlokas. Abi Yosef ben Ustoy the Rabbanan. Im kaimitz o shnei o chatzi kaimitz. Okay, fine. So that is that, TA1. And let's finish this up. Okay. Rabbi Yochanan halacha Rabbi Yosef ben Ustoy, like he said that when it comes to the Kohen Gadol, he has to bring two kmitzas. Rabbi Yochanan halacha stam mishnah to nan chamisha kamatzin hein. And we're going to Rabbi Yochanan. Hanalachat chelas, hanalachat chelas. See the next daf in tomorrow.